Welcome
Yep.
to Womb Talk. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vanderwalt, the owner and founder of Fruitful Womb Doula Services. In Womb Talk, we like to go over different topics that are acceptable for all audiences. We're not medical professionals. Everything on this podcast is to educate you so that you can make better choices for your body. If you have a passion for all things women's health, then let's start listening. Before we start talking today, I really wanted to invite you to tune in if you're in a safe space. Womb Talk is about raw and honest conversations, and today's guest is going to share her loss story and how she navigated through grief. So if you're not ready or able to listen to that, that's totally fine. Just tune off and come back if you do feel ready. So today we have the lovely Kaitlin Parsons. Can you please share about who you are and what you do in life, what makes you happy, like just you?
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm glad, so happy we connected.
Yes.
So yeah, I would love to share a little bit about me. So basically, my background is, I am a mother first and foremost. My favorite role in the world. I am a lost mom as well. So I am a mom to a total of six babies, three here on earth and three in heaven. So I love to share, about all of them because they are all still my babies. So let's start with, I have three living boys. So my oldest will actually be 10 in May, which is crazy to me. It's almost a decade of being a mom now. So fun. My middle is 7. And we also just had our most recent son in September of last year. He was our rainbow baby. So he is
Oh, wow.
almost, Monday he'll be 7 months old, which is crazy. So yeah, we have a pretty big age gap between my 7-year-old and my 7-month-old, which, is when we faced our losses. Um, Actually, it's crazy to me to share, but we lost three daughters. So,
Oh,
which again is crazy, three daughters in heaven, three sons on earth. So, but yeah, my first loss was in 2021. My husband and I decided, to grow our family once more. And unfortunately, that loss happened at our 20-week ultrasound. We found out that she
wow.
no longer had a heartbeat. So, that really hit us hard. We had never faced anything like that before. So just really navigating that, was really hard. Again, just never having faced a loss. We had two healthy boys at the time, two healthy pregnancies. So, that was very challenging. And then, we decided to grow our family again. We tried again, and at my 13-week scan, we found out the same thing. She no longer had a heartbeat. So after that, it was really for me about finding answers. Again, we had normal pregnancies before, nothing really that we knew of. For the most part, I was healthy. So we sought out answers. Unfortunately, we didn't really get any. The doctors basically cleared us. It was just one of those things that sometimes it happens. You have losses. So we decided to try again, and we got pregnant again with our little girl. And we were so optimistic this time. We were under high risk care. Again, I was healthy, normal pregnancy. I mean, I had a little bit of that sickness, but nothing that, you would think would cause anything major. So, we were so close to the end. We had made it through all the milestones, and unfortunately, at 37 weeks, we lost our daughter, Lainey Grace. So that loss hit a lot harder than our previous losses. Obviously, we were so close. We were 2 weeks away from my induction date with her. And again, just basically out of nowhere, I woke up one morning and I realized I didn't feel her moving. And, at that point, your body, your pregnancy, she was always really active. And I had just felt her the night before. So I really wasn't too worried. However, I did, head into the doctor. And unfortunately, they told us what we've heard before, but I don't think it never gets easier hearing that, your baby no longer has a heartbeat. Especially again when you're so close to, meeting your baby.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we that loss really hit us hard, especially because you're like, okay, you have two losses already. How can we have a third? And then, of course, it's a whole other level of, you have everything in the house set up already,
Yeah.
everything's, you're ready to bring her home. So after that loss, I really just let myself grieve. I really tried to find ways to heal. So I connected with a lot of communities, different communities like lost mom groups, stillbirth groups, that type of thing. And I just really sought out ways to connect with other lost moms. I wanted to share my story. Also, at the same time, like trying to help other lost moms. That's, I really, really wanted to find like I know it's kind of cliche, but I really wanted to find a purpose in my pain. Just, there, not that everything happens for a reason, because I truly don't believe that anymore. Sometimes you just have really crappy things that happen. And unfortunately, that's our path that we were given. However, I wanted to find purpose out of that, try to help other moms, try to help myself heal, help my family heal, that type of thing. So, yeah, that's where I'm at now. I started a podcast of my own to really, you know, um, reach other moms, other lost moms, and just that community. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. And we have our rainbow baby boy. We're so happy, he's here. And of course, one baby doesn't replace another. So we
Yeah.
know we still talk about our girls all the time. They're still very much a part of our family. We have a shelf. We remember their birthdays. Their all of that. So I would just encourage anybody listening, if it's, remember your babies, talk about them. They're still very much part of your story, part of your family. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
And I'd love to kind of just side sweep a little bit into it, but
Yeah,
what levels of support did you have while going through it? Because like I got my
sure,
training to be a bereavement doula, and I still have yet to like how like people haven't found me yet, I guess. And I just wondered if
sure.
like through your loss, like did you seek out, like I know you mentioned a few community services, but like
Mhm.
what was available to you to help you through that a little bit?
Sure. So, at the hospital where we had her, there is a local support group. It's called Forget Me Not Baskets, and
Okay.
it's wonderful. So they have basically, it's a nonprofit, but they offer they give these baskets to lost families, and they have different types of like items in them to help heal your heart, just like a journal, like a little stuffed elephant, those type of things, which I thought were really nice. Little keepsakes, if you will, that maybe will help you remember your baby. And then also for me, I think just being able to talk, like I said, talk about my losses, um, but also, you know, friends, family, that type of thing, just relying on people to, listen to me. I think for what you're doing is great, because I do feel like there are not enough resources out there for lost moms, for that bereavement period, especially at the beginning, like when you're so like right in your grief, like, hey, even if you don't want to talk about it, just having someone there, like knowing that someone is there, that you can go to, So I think that is great what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I was curious what kind of support you did have in that moment a little bit. Like, was there family that came to help you, or
Oh yeah.
good,
Yep.
good,
We have a very close family. So it was like a revolving door, meals and just just that type of thing. Just being here, I feel like, because again, when you come home to that empty house and it's just sometimes it's just so lonely. Even with my living children, it's like that's a whole other level of grief that you're dealing with,
yeah,
because they're also grieving. So, I think just having that support alone is just so important.
wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing with us a little bit. And you had mentioned your podcast, and I'm assuming your daughters are what inspired you to do it. But like, what inspired you to get it like going a little bit?
Sure, yeah, actually, very much so. Um, I actually started my podcast back in, oh gosh, 2023, shortly after we lost Lainey. And then about, it's funny. Okay, I put out one episode because I really wanted to talk about, my losses, talk about my story, share my story. It really just let other moms know that they were not alone. Because again, going back to, I don't think there's enough. We don't talk about it enough. Like you're not alone. You're seen. You're heard. I'm here for you. So I wanted to just share my story and get it out there and really connect with other lost moms. Well, shortly after I put that first episode out, we found out I was pregnant again with my son.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just, I was in this place where I was like, pregnancy after loss, especially, is hard. So I just didn't think I could really talk about it at the time. I was so emotional. So I put it on hold. And so I picked it back up again shortly after my son was born in 2024. So yeah, so I'm really diving into it now a lot more, which I'm so happy to be doing. Happy to be making connections like with you, and yeah. So here I am back at it.
Yeah, well, you've got so many different levels to talk about, really. It's like your first early losses, and then, although they are piled kind of in under this dome of like baby loss, the
Mhm.
stillbirth was probably a different level of grief that you had to go through compared to the other two, and just so many
Yes,
emotions. I feel for
absolutely. Oh, yeah, thank you. It really is, you think I guess you're safe, if you will.
you. Yeah,
You're so close, and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's out of nowhere. So, yeah, it definitely was a different type of loss and a different type of grieving
yeah.
for Lainey.
Well, that's a big thing is that they're always like, "Oh, 12 weeks." That like that's the one thing, like
Mhm.
even with my training too, they were like, "Oh, at the 12-week mark, that's when people normally announce and everything because then you're kind of like,
Sure.
as you said, the safe zone a little bit." But if you see it kind of just
Yep.
happens whenever, like it doesn't matter if it's,
Yeah.
37, 21,
Mhm.
12, like it
Mhm.
happens just in such a wide range throughout the entire
Yes.
pregnancy.
Absolutely. And again, you just never know it. And I don't want to scare any moms
Yeah.
listening or anything like that. It's just, you know, um, again, I feel like maybe, yeah, just listening to our bodies and really just knowing that, just having that caution, and again, I don't want to scare anybody, that's not my goal. I just, just to be, in tune with your body, maybe, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point I set up Womb Talk was because,
Yeah.
there's so many levels to our bodies, just like through grief,
Mhm.
through pregnancy, through menopause, like through all those stages, like there's so much
Mhm.
to our bodies. And I found that there's so much information out there and like half the time we don't know about it. Like I've been doing this for
Yeah.
5 years and I'm still like, oh my God, that's something new I never knew.
Right? Yeah, and that's funny that you mentioned that because I was, again, I feel like before you go through loss, you're so naive to it.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, that's never gonna happen to me. Like, why would that happen to me? I'm healthy, I've had 2 healthy pregnancies before." But then, after my losses, doing all this research and finding out just especially a stillbirth, because my 20-week loss was actually considered a stillbirth as well,
Oh, that's
because I did birth her. So the statistics of 2 stillbirths happening are so rare, so going back to like all this stuff that I just really learned through my own research, I mean, it is so sad to me how often stillbirths truly do happen. And again, there's some things in the medical field that I feel like could change to maybe, not have so many stillbirths. So again, just going back to like my own research and like, man, it's just so sad to me that it happens so often.
Yeah, it's really rough, and I mean, yours were so back to back as well, which is kind of
Yeah.
like I've helped a lot of families where it was more like baby loss, like it was more of a
Mhm.
pattern in a sense, and like for you to
Sure.
just like you said, you kind of got dealt a kind of
Yeah, yeah. It was a rough few years. I know. It was like, gosh, are we ever going to get our living baby, And so um I mean, obviously we have him and we're so happy, but it was just really rough for a while.
Yeah. And how did you find the strength to like turn the pain into, wanting to create a platform for others? Like, what was it that really was like, besides sharing your story, what made you be like, oh, yeah,
Sure.
I think I'm going to bare my soul to other people a
Sure.
little bit to say,
Sure. Honestly, I really think for me, I needed to find a way to heal myself, or to help heal. I mean, obviously, I'm still healing. I'm going to
yeah,
be healing forever. I don't. There's not a time limit on grief and healing. But for me, I wanted to start feeling better. And I think just kind of going back to what I said before, just sharing my story, letting other moms know that they're not alone, that there is hope. That's one of my things, is I really wanted to share that there is hope, um, because you know just finding that strength to try again after another loss and then another loss. It's like, okay, do we keep trying, or what should we be done? Just finding that strength to really try again. um and I know, and again, it pains me to say this, I know that you know not everybody has that. Not everybody has that rainbow baby. But for us, like, I wanted another baby so bad. My siblings wanted another, or I'm sorry, my sons wanted another sibling so terribly bad. It's like, and I'm so happy that we did find that strength and make that decision to try again. Um, but yeah, it was not an easy decision, I will say. So yeah, really just finding, you know, that strength to stay hopeful and to try again.
that's, I think, a big thing. And especially since, you and your partner have your own
Mhm.
grief about the situation as well. And that,
Oh,
the
yes.
coming together to
Mhm.
like, yeah, let's band together. Let's try it one more time to see if we can risk our heart on the line a little bit.
Mhm.
It's like,
I know.
it's,
Yeah.
it's a big
And
thing.
I yeah, I yeah, absolutely. I will say too, and for, like what you said, it wasn't easy because, there were times where he was like, I don't want to do this again, because I think him seeing me grieve, like
Yeah.
how bad I was hurting, but also just, the risks, and you know, and then for me, when I was like, okay, I want to try again, and he was pretty much on board. But again, it's like you both have to be on that page, that same page.
That's a big thing. And I mean, I'm very grateful that it turned out like, A, you got a rainbow baby, and that you guys are able to like continue,
Yes,
because like a lot of people I've seen it go the other way, and it's much nicer yours turned out, at
sure.
least in that sense, a little bit.
I know it. Yeah, I know. And again, I hate that for people that they don't, they don't get their rainbow baby, because again, I understand it's a hard decision. And if you're in that space right now where you're trying to make that decision, my heart hurts for you too, because it's like, gosh, it's a hard decision, I will say.
It's like, kind of feels like a risk almost, because you're kind of,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I just want to
Oh no,
like, try to
yeah.
explain, I guess.
Mhm. Yep. You're absolutely right. It is. Because again, like, it's like, well, why is this happening? We didn't have the answers. Like, they kept saying, "Oh, no, everything's fine," which clearly it wasn't. So
And they, just to clarify, they didn't have an answer for any of the three, like, of your daughters.
so we did end up finding answers, but
Oh,
it took me seeking out a whole different doctor in a whole different state. Um, so what we ended up finding out was that all three of our daughters had very small placentas, which the my first two losses actually had um, like a developmental issue, which kind of goes back to the small placenta issue. So with our last daughter, our stillbirth with Lainey, she ended up also having a small placenta, but it ended up leading to a cord injury with her. So again, I was very I think finding that out, having that answer for me was a little bit of sense of peace, because then I was like, okay, I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't me. It was my body, but at the same time, there was nothing that I could have done. I mean, a cord accident, there's really nothing that you can
Yeah.
do to prevent that. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things that is really tragic, and you do hear it happening. But again, and that's another big thing I say, it wasn't my fault. I do want other moms to know that, your loss is not your fault. It is not your fault.
Yeah. And that's something I've said in another podcast episode, is that I think, not to stereotypical or generalize, but I think
Hmm.
for women, we do immediately take blame for, like, oh,
Hmm.
anything, like, oh, it's our fault. I think the episode before this was
Yes.
like on sperm health a little bit. I was like, in fertility problems, we're always quick to think it's
Yeah.
it's our fault, but there might be other issues at play a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's not us. Yeah, exactly.
And I
And
just
like I said, it did give me that. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, 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 you go, please. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I think we're both on the same page about that. It's just, um, I think when you're in the midst of grief like that, you're just so quick to be like, all these questions, like why, and like the what ifs and all that. So I think it was good and healing for me to have those answers.
And I'm so glad you did get them, because that's why I'm sitting here and you're like, you got
Hmm.
no answers. Like, I'm a very
I
nosy
know.
person, so immediately my brain is like, I have to know
No.
everything, and I'm like,
Yes. Well, that's how I was, because I'm like, are we're really gonna try again, and we don't know what was wrong. Like, what if there's something underlying that we don't know about? And I mean, we had so many tests done, like all the medical tests. But of course, all the tests that we had done are not gonna pick up like the small placenta and then the cord accident. It's not gonna show all that. So sometimes it is an issue that unfortunately is just something out of your control. So
well, I'm very grateful you told your story, and I'd love to know, like, your podcast, like, what do you share on there? How are people going to find it? Like, we're going to put the link in the description, but, like, tell
yeah.
us a little bit more about that for us.
Sure. Well, thank you for giving me that space to talk about that. It's become really near and dear to my heart, because again, I'm able to just jump on there with guests. Also, I've had a few guests on now that, oh my gosh, it's just been so great to connect with other lost moms, and also have them share their story, in hopes to help other women heal and just find that connection and that community. So you can find me on, my handle is grief in motherhood is the name of my podcast. And so I really wanted to, with this, I really wanted to talk about, basically what it is. It's grief in motherhood. So I'm a mother. You're a mother no matter what. If you have had a loss, you're still a mother. And I want people to know that also. But I think also navigating grief while you're mothering other children, that's, a whole other level in itself. So yeah, I just really touch on all kinds of topics. My latest one was, I had a guest on, a couple weeks ago, and she was awesome. But she shared her story about losing her son at 18 months old, which,
Oh, wow.
gosh, I can't. That's, yeah, it's like a whole other level of grief. And so, the episode before that, I really talked about self-care, and while you're grieving. So just different topics that, I really just would love to, connect and, make sure that, again, other moms are, able to, have that space and heal and grieve also. So yeah. So thanks for allowing me to share about my podcast.
Of course. And I mean, I think if you're listening to this episode already, then there's some connection that made you jump in to
Sure.
listen. So there's definitely more of like, oh yeah, I definitely would listen to more. If as
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, because, but I'm just like, I
Sure.
feel like
No, I
there'd
know
be a
what you
successive
mean.
line
Yep.
for you.
I love that, and I love what you're doing. I think it's so great, to allow other moms and just other people, dealing with, this type of thing, and just in general, women's health and in our bodies and all of it. I think it's so great because, again, I don't think there's enough resources out there.
Exactly.
So I think it's great.
Well, I've if you've watched some of my episodes, I talk about how like at 11
Mhm.
years old I got my period, and that was like the most exciting thing in
Yeah.
the world for me. I wasn't like other people where I'm like, no, yes, no, like I was super obsessed.
Right.
My librarian
That's so
had asked
awesome.
my mother and was like, "Is there something you want to tell us?" Because I had taken every like women's health book possibly home.
Oh, I love that.
So,
Yeah.
I've just really had like there's so much to us as women. And I think like, after
Sure.
reading, I would probably say a good 50 plus books of women health,
Mhm.
there's still not enough info. And that's why I really
Oh,
think
yeah.
I love that you were able to talk and other people are able to talk and we could just kind of like help each other. Cause like, there's not enough
Yes.
research and studies and information about us.
Mhm. I think that's so great. I do to have that perspective,
Yeah.
because a lot of, like you said, like a lot when girls I started at 9, which is like awful because I didn't even know what it was at that age. And so it's like, oh my gosh. Um, but I love that perspective that you have because it's such a positive one, like let's turn what like they stereotype as like a bad thing, into
Yeah.
something good. I love that.
And that
I
I
love
don't
that
want
so
to be
much.
tune my own horn, but I definitely think we need more of it.
No,
Uh,
I think it's great. Yeah.
well, thank you. And I've been asking this to everyone because I'm going to make a big giant compilation of this season. But I would love to know if you had one tip
Mhm.
for women of any age. It could be about grief. It could be about anything of any situation. What would that tip be?
Sure. That's a loaded question. I love
Always,
it.
I
I
put
love it
people
so
on the
much.
spot.
Okay, so I would say, for me, I will go back to the grief topic because that, again, that's near and dear to my heart. So if I had to share one thing, I would say, to really let yourself feel those feelings. Let yourself grieve. Give yourself that time. Really just allow yourself to feel again. Um, I think it's such a taboo thing. Like, oh, there's a time limit on grief. No, there's not. I shouldn't feel. I shouldn't still be sad after 2 years. Yes, you should. You know what I mean? There's no time limit. There's no you know no end limit on grief. So let yourself feel. I again, it's almost been 2 years since we lost Lainey, and I still have days where I cry because I miss her. I can remember. I I can still remember that moment of just sitting in the hospital holding her, not wanting to give her up. And so again, there's no time limit. Let yourself feel. Let yourself grieve and feel all the feelings because you are allowed to do that.
That's a really good one. I love that. Thank you for sharing that for us. And
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
I'm really so glad you
Yeah.
came and you told us your story because, like you said, I think we should
Yes.
talk about it more. There are more taboos around it for a long time. And I think this generation
Sure.
is finally like nixing that.
Yes, I think so too. I think it is becoming, again, I think, women like you and like me who are talking about it more and allowing, giving people this space to really just share your story and talk about it. I really think it's becoming less taboo, which it should be.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this a lot. And was there anything closing remarks you wanted to mention? Oh,
Yeah, I so appreciate.
we froze, I think, for a second.
I think so. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. I was like, oh no. That's okay.
We'll just cut that part out. You were just any closing
Yep.
remarks that you have.
Again, just thank you so much for allowing me this space to share my story, to connect with you, and yeah, I really appreciate it, and I would be so happy to connect with any lost moms that would love to connect.
Wonderful. Well, you give me all the links and I'll put them in the description for people. And
Sure. Yep.
we will get some other people to listen to you because you've got a lot of good
Yeah.
advice to share. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Thank you
much.
so much.
And everybody listening, there will be another episode next Monday. So stay tuned. Thank you.